of genocide have occurred.
How many acts of genocide does it take to make genocide? How many acts of genocide does it take to make genocide? How many acts of genocide does it take to make genocide?
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
The Tiger's Nest is a Radio New International exclusive program brought to you by the Honorable Priest Isaac. The Tiger's Nest is aired live every Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. local standard time. Become a subscriber through our website by visiting www.priestisaacinstitute.com and choose between our subscription plans. Or you can subscribe by using the details provided in the link below.
Now, what I am going to do, family, I'm going to show you how we actually would link that very same ad from the 1970s with the genocide in Rwanda in 1994. Now, you just heard for yourself all of the testimonies there. You heard what General Delirium had to say. Again, he is the UN's, he was in charge of the UN's Canadian contingent that went to Rwanda in 1994. And he clearly showed you that he had the ability to stop the coup, or to stop the genocide, to stop the destruction, I should say, that was taking place in Rwanda. But as you clearly heard him say, the whole aspect of the division between the people in Rwanda, the division between the Hutu and the Tutsis was all orchestrated by the colonial masters. Yes, historians, and this is why I said earlier that some historians consider the Twa people to be the Tutsis. Some people consider the Hutu and the Tutsis to be the same exact people. And then there are those that will say, well, from the beginning, the Hutu and the Tutsis are different. And of course, you have the minority, which is the Twa, who are the original inhabitants of Rwanda. I wonder if you understand what I was saying. But if you listen to what the general was expressing a moment ago, in fact, let me replay it for you. He was clearly explaining how the Belgians came in and literally divided the people into these ethnic groups, and then created the circumstances where the Tutsis literally became hated because of how they, the colonial masters, would have dealt with the different groups that they have created, or at least the groups that the ethnic groups that they would have found and harped upon their differences. Listen to what the general has to say here.
You can understand an entire people growing up learning certain mythologies about themselves and their neighbors. And all the Hutu grew up, often in church-sponsored schools, learning that the Tutsi were different and probably alien.
The problem that essentially was created by the Belgians, who had this country as a colony, through their whole ethnicity exercise and their anthropologists who had gone on a wild spree of idiotic theories and sizes of heads and this and that. And the administrators included the ethnicity on the ID cards. And that then splits the country and identifies you as elements of difference.
I understand the intense ethnic hatreds weren't really in the soul of Hutu and Tutsi, but were stoked and encouraged by the imperial powers.
You understand? And this is very important. And again, for those who may have missed that, and those who may be just coming in, this is the Tiger's Nest, the radio program that comes to you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 7 p.m. on Radio Anu. This is why I am encouraging everyone to subscribe to the Tiger's Nest radio program, and you will never miss another episode again. You comprehend? Now, before I go into how do you subscribe? I mean, you're already on the website, priestisaacinstitute.com. All you have to do is email us, priestisaacinstitute@gmail.com, and let me know that you want to be a subscriber to the Tiger's Nest radio program. And again, you'll never miss another episode again. So if you don't get the program as we are live on the air, for sure we send it to you via your inbox or your email. You get it in your inbox. Now, before we go into the mystics as it relates to King Emmanuel and the 31st of May 1994 and the R Kingdom and the Rwandan flag and the red, gold, and green and the R and the whole vibration thereof, let us deal with that commercial about the Tootsie Roll Pop. Again, family, remember this is the 30th anniversary of the slaughter that took place 1994 in the African country of Rwanda. 800,000 people were slaughtered, the vast majority of them, the Tutsis. I'm not going to go over the history again. Again, if you subscribe to the Tiger's Nest, you will get this program that we are doing. And of course, the program we did in length as it relates to the genocide in Rwanda. As I showed you earlier, at the time, France was saying that they had nothing to do with the genocide. Even the movie Hotel Rwanda tried to cover up France's involvement in the genocide. Now, at this time, the 30th anniversary, France is coming out. The ruler, the head, the president himself coming out and saying how sorry they are for their involvement in the genocide that took place in Rwanda. Imagine that. But again, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, 15 years ago, France had nothing to do with it. So this is just to show you how serious it is and the world that we are living in. Now listen to the main points here. When it comes to the whole aspect of the genocide, remember this was not a genocide that went down with guns. It was machetes, cutlasses that took out the Tutsis. The colonially backed Hutus, as we just explained, even the colonialists came in with their propaganda. And remember, since the 1950s, the strife has been boiling up. Since the 1950s, going into the 60s and the 70s, the colonial masters have always been attempting this genocide that took place in 1994. Yes, 800,000 people got murdered in 1994, but if you're going to add up all the people that have been slaughtered over the decades in the several uprisings between these ethnic groups, we're gone into maybe almost 2 million people. And it has always been with the method, the methodology of getting the machete and licking your brother, mincemeat your brother, chop off his head. But it became so terrible. It came to a climax in 1994. And the world was in awe. And remember, General Delario just explained to us that he went to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton clearly told him that, hey, if America, is not involved, we can't put our hand into this. This has nothing to do with us, really. If our interests is not affiliated with this, we can't get involved. And Bill Clinton is on record where he said that this was a serious stain on his administration, speaking of the involvement or the lack of thereof with the Rwandan genocide. So the Canadian general basically was saying that all the nations turned their back on Rwanda when they could have helped. But did they really want to help? Family, you need to understand that they hide the truth in plain sight. Now I'm saying that commercial there, remember that it was the Department of, the State Department representative in 1994 that was asked the question, interestingly, how many acts of genocide does it take to make genocide? That was an interesting question. How many acts of genocide does it take to make genocide? Because she refused to answer that question. Now, why I consider that very interesting is because several years prior to that, there was a commercial created that had a tone. There was a question asked that had a similar tone to the question asked to the State Department representative. And the commercial was the Tootsie Roll Pop commercial. A very famous commercial, a very famous ad. Many of you would have seen or heard the ad before, especially as a child, where the young lad goes to the cow and asks the cow how many licks. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie? A Tootsie Roll Pop. How many licks? Licks, you know. How many licks does it take to get to the center? The cow said he can't tell you. He went to a fox. The fox said he cannot help. He went to a turtle. The turtle said, go and ask the owl. And he went to Molech, the owl, and said, Molech, owl, how many licks? Licks, you know. Now listen, English or English is such a confusing language because licks, yeah, licks, you take your tongue and you lick, but you can take a machete and you can lick someone. That's why the song says from Israel Vibration, licks and kicks and boxes. So you take a cutlass or a machete and you lick someone. Now listen to me, family. I am the author of fairy tale, folly days, and nursery crime. I am the originator of the Santa Claus massacre. No offense, but when you hear about television and we make the news and all of that stuff, we unraveled that. So it is not by surprise, nothing catching us off guard here. It's not as if maybe we are hallucinating. I am positive that this ad was made to make mockery of the genocide that would eventually happen because it was already planned in 1994 in Rwanda. You must keep in mind that the whole aspect of murdering the Tutsis was something that has been taking place for decades before 1994. And the weapon of choice has always been them machetes. So the Tutsis always were running for their life, running from licks. It was always in the news, and today 10 Tutsis were found chopped to death. That's before the genocide, you know. A mother and her children were found chopped to death in their house. They were of the ethnic Tutsi people. This is before the genocide. Remember, from 1959, this is before the genocide. And then in the 70s, this is before the genocide. The Tutsis and the Hutus, but the Hutus taking the charge, licking their people to death. Who? The Tutsis. So it is not by chance you have an ad during the same time with a product that literally somehow just happens to have the same name, Tutsi. And the question being asked, how many licks? Imagine that. How many licks does it take, oh my, to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll Pop? And listen, I mean, maybe I would push it aside, but then the question was asked during the genocide to the State Department representative. How many genocide does it take to make a genocide? And the question was asked in relation to the Rwandan genocide of the Tutsis. Now, is it just mere coincidence that these two questions sound exactly the same? Come on, family, work with me. How many genocides does it take to make a genocide? How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? I mean, the reality is that you can see that in a framework, the questions are similar. And at the same time, both questions, believe it or not, are dealing with Tutsi. Yeah, one with the Tootsie Pop, but one having to do with the genocide on the Tutsi people. And it all has to do with licks. Because the genocide on the Tutsi people were because they were being licked by the machetes. And the little boy talking to the owl, asking the owl how many licks it takes to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll. And hear what the ad says: the world may never know.
To avoid any legal obligations to help.
We have every reason to believe that acts of genocide have occurred.
How many acts of genocide does it take to make genocide?
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 3.
If there's anything I can't stand, it's a smart owl.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
Prosperity is a herbal remedy that has been naturally designed to nourish the prostate gland. Prosperity uses a combination of leaves, roots, and barks to create a tincture designed to nourish your prostate gland. It also will assist in prostate-related issues such as erectile dysfunction, swollen prostates, and problems related to the passage of urine. Call or WhatsApp 728-8289, 728-8289 and get your bottle today. Prosperity.